The crystal halls of Nexus Prime had never seen such panic, Ambassador. Zextel's wings trembled as he looked at the massive screen showing the star charts. His compound eyes reflected the fear that gripped every being in the chamber. Different species sat in their special chairs, breathing their own air through tubes and filters. Some floated in water tanks, others needed gravity fields to keep their soft bodies from collapsing. All of them were terrified. The signals are real, Zextel announced to the Council. Oh, and GT, his voice cracked through the translation devices. The Death World species has achieved space travel. Collective shudder ran through the assembly. The Velar ambassador's words confirmed their worst nightmare. Thousands of years they had kept watch over the forbidden system. Sol, they called it, the system with the impossible planet where nothing should be able to live. Council leader Vorak, an ancient creature that looked like a living crystal, pulsed with worried colors. Show us the data again, he requested in his musical voice. The main screen changed. It showed a metal ship moving through space at incredible speed. The ship was not elegant like Zephyrian vessels or smooth like Velari crafts. It was angular and brutal, built like a weapon. Strange symbols covered its hull. The humans called it letters, but they looked like scars to alien eyes. The vessel emerged from the Sol system 3 cycles ago, reported scanner. Technician Lysira, or blue skin, had turned pale with fear. It carries the impossible signature. We have been watching for the signature of Sol 3. Sol 3, the name made every creature in the room want to flee. For generations, their scientists had studied that world from a safe distance. What they found defied all logic. Planet was covered liquid that would burn through most alien skin. Its atmosphere contained oxygen and concentrations that would explode if exposed to the smallest spark. Massive storms raged across its surface with winds that could tear apart most starships. Worst of all, life thrived. Their captain, Jake Miller, had no idea that his morning coffee was being watched by terrified aliens across the galaxy. He sat in the command chair of the UES Horizon, reading reports from his science team. The ship hummed quietly around him as it moved through the empty space between stars. Any luck with the long-range scanners? Lisa, pilot Lisa Brown, looked up from her console. Her short brown hair was messy from a night of poor sleep. Still, nothing, Captain. It's just empty space and some old radio signals from dead civilizations. Jake nodded. The exploration mission had been going for 6 months without finding any signs of current life. Earth Command wanted them to look for other intelligent species, but space was vast and mostly empty. Sometimes Jake wondered if humans were alone in the universe. He was very wrong. In the engineering section, Sam Carter was fixing a water recycling unit. The job was routine, something he had done hundreds of times. He whistled while he worked, a happy tune his daughter had taught him. The sound would have terrified any alien listener. To them, it would sound like the hunting call of an apex predator. Back on Nexus Prime, the Council continued to study the human ship. Military advisor Krenel, a warrior from a species that looked like armored bears, pointed at the screen with a shaking claw. Look at their speed, he whispered. They move through space like they own it. No fear of radiation. It's no concern for micrometeors. They fly through zones that would kill Most of our crews, the truth was, simpler. Human technology was good, but not perfect. The crew of the Horizon dealt with radiation by using thick shielding, avoided micrometeors with careful navigation. What seemed like fearless bravery to the aliens was just humans doing their jobs with the same care they brought to everything. We must prepare for invasion, declared war. Coordinator Hexoth, his tentacles waved in agitation. The Deathworlders are coming. They will consume our worlds like they consumed their own. The aliens did not understand that Earth was not consumed. It was home. Humans loved their dangerous, beautiful, impossible planet. With all its storms and earthquakes and deadly creatures, they did not see it as a prison but as the place that made them who they were. Dr. Helen Ross was in the ship's laboratory studying samples from a comet they had passed last week. She was excited about the organic compounds she had found. Simple amino acids, but they suggested that life might be more common than anyone thought. She made notes in her personal journal about the possibility of finding other living worlds. She had no way of knowing that 47 civilizations were currently debating whether to destroy her ship before it could report back to Earth. The readings are impossible, insisted Chief Science Advisor Yulendig. The tall, thin alien looked like a walking stick insect made of metal. Their ship shows massive power output. Engines burn with the fury of a small star. How do they contain such forces? The human fusion drive was powerful, but it was technology Earth had been using for decades. The aliens used gentler methods of travel, careful systems that would never risk containing such violent energies. To them, human engineering looked like madness. Captain Miller finished his reports and walked to the observation deck. Through the clear aluminum windows, he could see the stars. Somewhere out there, other beings might be looking at the same stars and wondering if they were alone. Jake hoped they were friendly. When humanity finally met them, he was about to find out just how wrong that hope was. The emergency session on Nexus Prime had been going for hours. Representatives sent urgent messages to their home world's fleet. Commanders received orders to move their ships into defensive positions. Trade routes that had been used for centuries were suddenly abandoned as species fled toward the galactic core. We should send a message, suggested Diplomat Fane. Her species looked like living flowers, beautiful but fragile. Can communicate with them, make them understand that we mean no harm. Several council members made sounds of disbelief. War Advisor Krenel laughed. Sound like grinding metal. You cannot negotiate with deathers. Failing, they are apex predators. They know only hunger and conquest. The aliens had built their understanding of humans on fear and assumptions. They knew that Earth was a world of constant danger. They knew that humans ate other living things to survive. They knew that human bodies were adapted for violence, with forward-facing eyes like hunters and teeth designed for tearing flesh. What they did not know was that these same humans wrote poetry about sunsets, that they cried when their pets died, that they would risk their own lives to save strangers. The galaxy was about to learn that evolution could create something far more dangerous than a perfect predator. It could create a species capable of both incredible violence and unlimited compassion. The ship has changed course, announced scanner technician Lasara. Her voice was barely a whisper. It is heading directly toward the Kepler station. Kepler station was a trading post on the edge of Council space. Thousands of beings lived and worked there, representing dozens of species. It was a symbol of galactic cooperation and peace. Now it lay directly in the path of what the aliens believed was an invasion fleet. Admiral Roy Banks received the new navigation data in his ready room aboard the Horizon. Ship's AI had detected artificial structures in a nearby system, metal objects too regular to be natural energy, signatures that suggested advanced technology. Set course for the new contacts he ordered through the communication system. Finally, we might have found what we were looking for. The Admiral was excited. First contact with an alien civilization was the dream of every explorer. He imagined the celebrations on Earth when the news arrived. Humanity was not alone. He could not imagine the terror his decision was causing across half the galaxy. The council session dissolved into chaos as species after species announced they were withdrawing their representatives. Ships fled the outer colonies. Military forces mobilized for what they believed would be the greatest war in galactic history, all because 12 humans on an exploration ship had decided to investigate some interesting metal objects in space. The Deathworlders were coming, and the galaxy waited in terror for their arrival. Cathara had always been curious about the old stories. As a young Zephyrian historian, she spent her days in the great archives beneath the crystal spires of her home world. The ancient data crystals held thousands of years of galactic history, but one file always made her scales tingle with fear and fascination. The sultry research file. She activated the holographic display with trembling fingers. The file was marked with warning symbols in 47 different languages. Each symbol meant the same thing: extreme danger, do not approach, quarantine. In effect, the first images showed a blue and green world spinning in the deadly radiation of a yellow star. To most species, yellow stars were dangerous sources of cancer-causing light, but somehow life had not just survived on Solri, it had exploded into billions of different forms. Computer, play the original survey report. Cathar whispered. The voice of Survey Captain Moreland filled the archive chamber. His words were over 3,000 years old, but they still carried the shock of that first discovery. Day 47 of the Solar System Survey. We have discovered something impossible. The third planet from the star supports massive amounts of life despite conditions that should prevent any biological activity. The images changed to show vast blue oceans. To human eyes they would look peaceful and beautiful citizens. They looked like seas of liquid poison. Water was so rare in the galaxy that most species had never seen it in large quantities. The idea of an entire world covered in it was beyond comprehension. The dominant chemical in these oceans is dihydrogen monoxide, continued the ancient voice. This compound is so reactive it dissolves most known materials, yet somehow primitive life forms swim freely through it. Kia paused the recording and made notes on her data pad. She was researching the old legends for her thesis on galactic mythology. Most professors believe the Saw 3 stories were exaggerated over time, like all myths, but the evidence suggested something far more terrifying. The stories were all true. Meanwhile, board the EU's Horizon, Dr. Helen Ross was having the time of her life. The xenobiologist had dreamed of this moment since she was a child reading science fiction books. She was about to make contact with alien life, and she wanted everything to be perfect. Sam, can you help me set up the cultural exchange materials? She asked the engineer. Sam Carter wiped grease off his hands and smiled. Sure thing, Doc. What do you need? Helen opened a storage container filled with items from Earth. There were photographs of human cities, samples of Earth music, videos of human families, and educational materials about human society. She had spent months choosing things that would show aliens the best of humanity. She had no idea that each item be seen as evidence of humanity's terrifying nature. Back in the archives, Cather continued reading the old survey reports. The next section made her stomach twist with fear. The atmosphere contains 21% oxygen. Its concentration is so high it would cause most organic matter to burst into flames. The native life forms not only survive this caustic gas, they require it to live. The young historian had to stop reading and take several deep breaths of her own safe atmosphere. Oxygen was one of the most dangerous chemicals in the known galaxy. Most species used it only in tiny amounts for industrial processes, always with extreme safety measures. The idea of breathing it was like the idea of drinking acid, yet the humans did both. She activated another file, O and GT, this one containing atmospheric readings from the human ship currently approaching Council space. The Horizons life support systems pumped pure oxygen through the crew compartments. To Kra, it looked like the humans were living inside a bomb that could explode at any moment. Dr. Kate Williams, the ship psychologist, was preparing her own materials for first contact. She had studied every theory about alien psychology that human science had developed. She wanted to make sure the meeting would be comfortable and stress-free for both species. Her preparations included a simple meal that humans could share with aliens, assuming they had similar nutritional needs. She had chosen basic foods: bread, fruit, vegetables, and water. To human thinking, these were the most peaceful and non-threatening foods possible. To alien thinking, they were the diet of a species that consumed other living things. Cather found another section in the archives labeled biological analysis. She almost decided not to read it, but scientific curiosity won over fear. The report was written by the galaxy's best xenobiologist after they studied the Sol 3 ecosystem from a safe distance. The dominant species shows clear signs of predatory evolution: forward-facing eyes for tracking prey, canine teeth designed for tearing flesh, powerful jaw muscles for crushing bone. Despite this, they appear to live in large social groups, suggesting pack hunting behavior. The report included images captured by long-range telescopes, pictures of humans walking through cities, playing in parks, working in fields. To the alien scientists, every image confirmed their worst fears. They saw apex predators who had somehow learned to cooperate, making them more dangerous than any creature in galactic history. What they missed was the laughter in those images, the gentle touches between humans, the way adults protected children and the weak cared for the elderly. They saw the tools of predators but missed the hearts of protectors. Commander Amy Foster was in the Horizons Communication Center working with linguist Mary Green to prepare translation protocols. They had developed a system that could theoretically translate human language into mathematical concepts that any technological species should understand. I think we should start with basic concepts, Mary suggested, numbers, physical laws, chemical elements, then move to more complex ideas. Amy nodded. Good thinking. Want to show them we're intelligent and peaceful. They had prepared messages explaining that humans came in peace. They wanted to share knowledge and friendship with any aliens they met. The messages were carefully crafted to be as non-threatening as possible. Neither woman could imagine that the very act of humans wanting to share anything would terrify potential alien contacts. Cather discovered the most frightening section of the archives. Late in her research was labeled Environmental Adaptation Studies and contained detailed analysis of Earth's climate and geology, the surface of Sol. 3 experiences, regular catastrophic events that would sterilize most worlds. Massive storms with winds exceeding 200 standard velocity units, seismic activity that reshapes continents, volcanic eruptions that poison the atmosphere with toxic gases. The report went on to describe hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, tsunamis, and blizzards. Each natural disaster was documented with the same scientific precision that other worlds used to study extinction events. Yet somehow, humans not only survived these catastrophes, they had built their entire civilization around expecting them. And GT, disturbing of all, continued the ancient report, the dominant species appears to seek out these dangerous conditions for recreational purposes. Long-range observations show groups of the creatures deliberately entering storm systems, climbing unstable geological formations, and exposing themselves to temperature extremes that would kill most galactic citizens within minutes. Cathara thought about her own people who lived in carefully controlled environments where the temperature never varied by more than a few degrees. The idea of humans climbing mountains in freezing weather or swimming in violent oceans seemed like the behavior of insane beings who had lost all survival instinct. She did not understand that for humans these activities were not about conquering fear, they were about experiencing joy. Chef Rick Parker was in the ship's galley planning what he would cook for their alien guests. He wanted to prepare something that would show off human culinary skills while being simple enough to avoid any dietary conflicts. Maybe something grilled, he thought out loud to his assistant Tony Adams. Nothing too spicy. You don't know how their digestive systems work. Tony laughed. Just don't mention that it used to be alive. That might freak them out. There man realized that the entire concept of cooking was seen as evidence of humanity's predatory nature by most galactic species. The idea that humans regularly killed other living things and then used fire to prepare them for consumption painted humanity as the most savage species the galaxy had ever encountered. As Cather finished reading the ancient files, she felt a deep sadness for the humans approaching Council space. They had no idea they were flying into a galaxy that saw them as monsters. Every attempt at friendship would be seen as a threat. Every gesture of peace would be interpreted as predatory behavior. The young historian began to wonder if the galaxy had made a terrible mistake in its judgment of the death world species. But it was too late to change 3,000 years of fear and misunderstanding. The humans were coming, and the galaxy would meet them. Not with curiosity or hope, but with the terror that had been growing since the first scout ship had discovered their impossible world. The alarm bells rang through Kepler station as scanner operator Vishnet watched his screen. Horror, the massive trading post had been peaceful just moments before. Now, every being on the station was running for their lives. The Deathworld ship is here, he announced over the emergency communication system. His voice shook so badly the translation computers could barely understand him. Through the station's main viewing ports, thousands of aliens watched the human ship approach. The used horizon looked nothing like the sleek vessels they were used to. It was angular and brutal, covered in armor plating and sensor arrays. To the terrified watchers, it looked like a weapon designed for one purpose: destroying other ships. Captain Jake Miller sat in his command chair, completely unaware of the panic he was causing. He was actually excited about the massive structure ahead of them. Was clearly artificial, obviously built by intelligent beings, and it was beautiful in its own alien way. Lisa, bring us in. Slowly he ordered his pilot. We don't want to seem aggressive. Lisa Brown nodded and reduced their speed to what humans considered a gentle approach. 2. The aliens watching the human ship still moved with the confidence of a predator that feared nothing in space. Open a communication channel, Jake told his communication officer, Don Rogers. Let's introduce ourselves properly. Dan activated the translation systems that Mary Green had prepared. The message went out in mathematical sequences and universal physical constants, the most peaceful greeting that human science could devise. This is Captain Jake Miller of the Earthship Horizon. Come in peace, seeking friendship and knowledge. Wish to establish diplomatic contact with your civilization. The message reached Kepler station and was immediately interpreted as the most terrifying threat the galaxy had ever received. The translation computers struggled with human language patterns, but the meaning seemed clear to the frightened aliens. A pack leader from the Death World was announcing his presence. He was seeking new hunting grounds. He wanted to establish dominance over galactic civilization. Station Commander Jaxler, member of the peaceful Trilaxy species, made the hardest decision of his career: evacuate the station. All ships emergency departure. Send word to the Galactic Council that the Deathworlders have arrived. Aboard the Horizon, the human crew watched in confusion as ships began fleeing from the trading station. Hundreds of vessels of different shapes and sizes launched from docking bays and headed away at maximum speed. Are we that ugly? Joked engineer Sam Carter over the internal communication system. Maybe they're just surprised to see us, suggested Dr. Helen Ross. She was in the science bay, recording everything for the history books. This is probably the first time they've met humans. She had no idea how right she was or how wrong that first meeting was going. Commander Pete Johnson led the human diplomatic team toward the shuttle bay. They were going to transfer to a smaller ship and approach the station directly. Ben, chosen for his calm personality and his experience with difficult negotiations. Behind him walked linguist Mary Green and cultural specialist Tony Adams. Remember, we want to make a good first impression, Pete told his team. We represent all of humanity today. The 3 humans boarded their shuttle and launched from the horizon. They had prepared gifts to offer the aliens. Samples of human art, music, and literature. They carried medical supplies in case the aliens needed help. They brought pictures of Earth's beauty to share with their new friends. Every single item it carried would be seen as evidence of humanity's terrifying nature. The shuttle approached Kepler station just as the last alien vessels were fleeing. The massive structure looked abandoned, its docking bays empty and its lights dimmed too. Emergency power. Only one small ship remained, and it was clearly preparing to leave. Wait, Pete broadcast on all frequencies. Please don't go, we just want to talk. The remaining ship belonged to Junior Diplomat Felmuth of the Quiller Confederation. Had stayed behind because his people valued courage above all else, even when facing certain death. His ship's engines were already warming up, but something in the human's voice made him pause. The tone was not what he expected from a Death World predator. It sounded almost sad. Why do you not attack? Felmuth transmitted back, as people were known for asking direct questions even to creatures that could kill them. Pete was confused by the strange question. Attack? We don't want to attack anyone. We came here hoping to make friends. The concept of Deather seeking friendship was so alien to Felmuth that his translation computer assumed it was malfunctioning. He ran the message through backup systems, but they all gave the same impossible result. You seek alliance for hunting packs? Yes, trying to understand. No, just friendship, Pete replied patiently. We want to learn about your culture and share ours with you. We want to trade knowledge and maybe trade goods. We want to explore the galaxy together. Felmuth ship computer began analyzing the human voice patterns. What it found contradicted everything the galaxy believed about. Saw 3 species. Voice showed no signs of aggression, no territorial dominance, no predatory hunger. Instead, it detected something the galaxy had not expected to hear from. Deathworlders, hope you will meet with me, Felmuth asked. His own voice was shaking, but curiosity was stronger than fear. Of course, Pete answered immediately. Where would you like to meet? The 2 ships docked at an abandoned section of Kepler Station. Pete, Mary, and Tony walked through the airlock wearing standard human space suits. They carried their gifts in simple bags, not knowing that even their casual walk would terrify any alien who saw it. Humans moved through space like they owned it. No fear of the deadly vacuum, no concern about radiation. They walked upright and confident. The way apex predators moved through familiar territory. Felmuth waited for them in a meeting room designed for diplomatic contact between different species. He floated in a tank of his home world's atmosphere, his tentacle-like arms trembling with nervousness. When they humans entered the room, he almost fled. They were bigger than he had expected, taller than most galactic species, and built like warriors. But what shocked him most was their faces, the forward-facing eyes of predators, yes, but also something else, something that looked almost like kindness. Hello, Pete said simply. I'm Pete Johnson. This is Mary Green and Tony Adams. Thank you for staying to meet us. The words were translated properly, but Felmuth struggled to understand them. The humans were thanking him for not running away. They seemed genuinely pleased to meet him. Nothing in galactic science had prepared him for polite Deathworlders. "I am Felmuth," he replied carefully. "I study other species for my government. You are the first Deathworlders anyone has ever spoken with." Mary stepped forward with her gift bag. "We brought some things from our world to share with you. Would you like to see them?" She opened the bag and pulled out a photograph of a human family, parents and children smiling at the camera, standing in front of a house with a green lawn and blue sky behind them. Felmuth looked at the image and felt his world view begin to crumble. These were supposed to be the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy, but the picture showed something impossible. Deathworlders who cared for their young, who lived in family groups, who built homes instead of hunting grounds. "These are your offspring?" he asked, pointing at the human children in the picture. "Yes," Mary said proudly, "those are my kids, Bobby and Sue. They're at school right now back on Earth." The concept of Deathers having schools was so ridiculous that Felmuth was sure the translation was wrong, but Mary continued talking about her children, about how they learned and played and grew. She described a species that protected its young and taught them knowledge instead of just hunting skills. Tony opened his own bag and pulled out a small device. "This plays music from our world. Would you like to hear it?" The device began playing gentle melody, something humans would recognize as classical music. To Felmuth, it sounded like the most beautiful thing he had ever heard. It was complex and emotional, full of joy and sadness and hope. It was the sound of a species with souls. "Your people create beauty," Felmuth whispered, "but the old reports say you are only destroyers." Pete sat down in one of the human-sized chairs, making himself seem less threatening. "We're not destroyers, we're explorers. We build things, we make art and music and stories. We love our families and our friends. We want to see new worlds and meet new people." Alien diplomat felt something he had never expected to feel in the presence of Deathers. Safety. These beings were not the monsters of galactic nightmares. They were something far more dangerous. To the established order, they were people just like him. "I must contact the Galactic Council," Felmuth said quietly. "They need to know that everything we believed about your species is wrong." Pete smiled, not knowing that his expression looked like a predator showing its teeth to most alien species. But Felmuth was beginning to understand that human expressions meant different things than they appeared. "We'd be happy to talk to your council," Pete replied. "We have a lot to learn from each other. It's the first successful contact between humans and aliens." Continued in the abandoned station. Emergency messages were racing across the galaxy. The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Within hours of the Kepler station evacuation, every major news network was broadcasting the same terrifying message. The Deathworlders had arrived on the water world of Aquaticus Prime. The floating cities began emergency descent procedures. The Mirthly people had lived on their planet's surface for millions of years, but now they dove deep into the ocean trenches where they hoped the humans could not follow them. Elder Blue Wave watched the emergency broadcasts from his underwater bunker. The images showed the human ship approaching Kepler station, its angular hull reflecting starlight like a predator's teeth. "Send word to all colonies," he commanded his staff. "It's Full evacuation to the deep waters, if the Deathworlders control space, perhaps. They cannot reach us in the depths. What Elder Blue Wave did not know was that humans were excellent swimmers, that they had explored their own oceans, deeper than most species had ever imagined possible, that they would see his beautiful underwater cities as wonders to protect, not targets to destroy. On the crystal world of Harmonious, the entire civilization was preparing to go into hibernation. The resonance people could slow their metabolism to almost nothing and wait for centuries if needed. They had never used this ability to hide from danger before. The approaching Deathworlders seemed worth any sacrifice. Here Crystal stood before the great council chamber, her crystalline body chiming with fear. The vibrations are clear, she announced to her people. Humans bring discord, they will shatter our harmony and destroy our peaceful ways. She could not imagine that humans created music too, that they would be fascinated by the natural harmonies of her people, that a human composer named Nancy Walsh boarded the horizon was already dreaming of the symphonies they could create together. Meanwhile, General Alex Turner was trying to understand why First Contact was going so wrong. Stood in the Horizon's war room looking at tactical displays that showed alien ships fleeing in all directions. Captain Miller, what exactly did we do to scare them? He asked over the communication system. Jake's voice came back tired and confused. Nothing, General. We sent standard greeting messages and we approached at peaceful speeds. We even offered to share our cultural materials. General Turner had spent 30 years in the military, but he had never faced a situation like this. Every war he had fought was against human enemies who thought like humans. These aliens seem to operate on completely different logic. Maybe they're afraid of our weapons, suggested his aide, Lieutenant Dan Rogers. What weapons? Turner replied. We're an exploration ship. We barely have enough firepower to deal with space pirates. The truth was that the Horizon's defensive systems were powerful enough to destroy most alien warships. Human military technology was built to survive the harsh conditions of space and the brutal efficiency of human warfare. Two species that had known peace for thousands of years. Even a lightly armed human ship looked like an unstoppable weapon of war. Dr. Susan Lee was in her geology lab, completely unaware of the panic spreading across the galaxy. She was preparing a presentation about Earth for their new alien friends. The presentation was full of images she thought would show the beauty of the human home world, pictures of the Grand Canyon carved by millions of years of flowing water, videos of Yellowstone's geysers shooting superheated water hundreds of feet into the air, time-lapse footage of volcanic eruptions creating new islands in the Pacific Ocean. To human eyes, these were some of the most beautiful sights their planet offered. To alien eyes, they would look like scenes from a world designed to kill anything that tried to live there. I can't wait to show them Niagara Falls, Susan said to her assistant, Carol Davis. The sheer power of all that water falling must be incredible too. Species that don't have large water bodies on their worlds. Carol looked up from her own work organizing mineral samples from Earth. What about the aurora displays? Those should be pretty universal. Everyone likes pretty lights in the sky. Neither woman realized that Most species would see the aurora as evidence of Earth's deadly radiation. Environment, the beautiful lights were caused by solar particles interacting with the planet's magnetic field, creating displays that would be fatal to most alien life forms. On the military world of Fortress Prime, where Marshal Gristar was mobilizing the largest fleet in galactic history, his people, the Ironclaw Dominion, were one of the few warrior species in Council space. If anyone could stand against the Deathworlders, it would be them. How many ships can we gather? He asked his fleet commanders. 12,000 warships from 43 different species, reported Admiral Tormoth. Every military force in the galaxy is joining the defense fleet. Grixar studied the tactical displays. It was an impressive force, enough firepower to destroy entire solar systems, but he had read the classified reports about human capabilities. Their ships moved faster than anything in the galactic fleet. Their weapons hit harder than mass drivers. Their armor could survive direct hits from fusion cannons. It may not be enough, he admitted to his staff. The intelligence reports suggest they have technology beyond our understanding. The intelligence reports were wrong, but not in the way Grixar thought. Human technology was not more advanced than galactic science. In many ways it was actually more primitive, but it was designed by and for creatures who lived in constant danger, and that made it far more robust than the delicate systems most species preferred. Aboard the Horizon, Chef Rick Parker was preparing for what he hoped would be peaceful dinner with alien guests. He had studied the limited information they had about alien biology and tried to create a menu that would be safe for different metabolisms. Simple foods, he told his kitchen staff. Nothing too complex. Maybe some bread, fresh fruit, vegetables, something that shows we're civilized people who enjoy good food. Together, his assistant, Jack Murphy, was setting up tables in the ship's main conference room. Should we use the good china, make it feel special? Definitely, Rick agreed. This might be the most important meal in human history. Neither man could imagine the horror their peaceful dinner would cause to alien observers. The bread was made from plants that had been killed and ground up. The fruit had been torn from living trees. The vegetables had been harvested from Earth's poisonous soil. Two species that had evolved beyond consuming other life forms. The human meal would look like a feast of death served on plates made from processed minerals. Dr. Kate Williams was in her psychology lab, preparing mental health assessments for the human crew. First contact was stressful for everyone, and she wanted to make sure her people stayed calm and rational during the historic meeting. How is everyone handling the pressure? She asked during her daily crew meeting. Excited, replied Engineer Sam Carter. I can't wait to see how their technology works. Maybe we can learn from each other. I'm nervous, admitted Pilot Lisa Brown. What if we say something wrong? What if we accidentally offend them? Dr. Williams nodded understandingly. Those are normal concerns. Just remember, we're representing the best of humanity. We're explorers, not conquerors. Come in peace. Her words would have comforted the crew, but they would have terrified any alien listener. The concept of humans representing the best of their species suggested that there were worse humans back on Earth. The galaxy was already imagining billions of creatures, even more dangerous than the ones approaching their space on the trade. World of Commerce Central. The markets were collapsing as panic selling destroyed centuries of economic stability. Species were converting all their assets to portable resources and fleeing toward the galactic rim. Economic coordinator Vapa watched her life's work disappear in a single day. How did this happen? She asked her staff. One ship caused the collapse of galactic civilization. The truth was more complex. The galaxy had built its peace on the assumption that the most dangerous world in known space would never produce spacefaring life. When that assumption proved wrong, everything else fell apart like a house built on sand. The refugee fleets are causing traffic jams in every major hyperspace lane, reported her aide. And GT, some colonies are completely cut off. Others are receiving more refugees than they can handle. Entire species were abandoning their home worlds based on nothing more than fear of creatures they had never met. The galaxy was tearing itself apart to escape an enemy that only wanted to be friends. Back on Kepler Station, diplomat Felmuth was trying to explain the situation to his new human friends. Your species has a reputation, he said carefully. The old stories say that you are very dangerous. Pete Johnson looked genuinely confused. Dangerous? We're scientists and explorers. We study things, we build things, we make art and music. How is that dangerous? Your world, Felmuth explained. The reports say it is impossible to live there, that only the most savage predators could survive such conditions. Mary Green laughed, not realizing that the sound made Felmuth flinch. To his species, laughter sounded like a hunting call. Can be challenging sometimes, but it's beautiful too. We love our world. Tony Adams pulled out more pictures to show their new friend, images of human cities full of lights and life. And GT, pictures of children playing in parks, photos of elderly humans reading books in quiet libraries. The massive alien fleet stretched across space like a metal constellation. 12,000 warships from 43 different species hung in formation, waiting for the death world invasion that they were sure was coming. Their combined firepower could turn entire worlds into dust. War Marshal Gristar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the tactical displays with growing nervousness. His fleet was the largest military force in galactic history, but the enemy they faced had come from the impossible world of Sauri. Long-range sensors detect the human vessel, reported his scanner operator. Single ship approaching at standard speed. Grixar frowned at the display. One ship. After all the panic, all the evacuation orders, all the military preparation, the humans had sent exactly one ship. Are you certain there are no others? He demanded. Confirmed, Marshal. Only one vessel detected. Appears to be the same exploration ship from the Kepler station. Incident. The War Marshal felt his confidence waver. Either the humans were incredibly arrogant or there was something about the situation that he did not understand. Aboard the UAS Horizon, Captain Jake Miller was looking at his own tactical display with growing concern. The sensor readings showed enough alien ships to conquer half the galaxy, and they were all pointed in his direction. General Turner, are you seeing this? Jake asked. Over the communication system, General Alex Turner studied the formation of alien vessels. His military experience told him this was either a massive show of force or preparation for total war. Neither option made sense for what was supposed to be a peaceful first contact mission they certainly aren't taking any chances, Turner replied grimly. That's more firepower than most civilizations could build in a century. Communications officer Dan Rogers looked up from his station. Sir, we're receiving thousands of transmission attempts. Every ship in that fleet is trying to talk to us. At once put the strongest signal through, Jay ordered. War Marshal Gristar's voice filled the Horizon's bridge, translated through their universal communication system. Human vessel, you will identify yourself and state your intentions immediately. Jake took a deep breath. This was not how he had hoped first contact would go, but he was still determined to make it work. This is Captain Jake Miller of the Earth's exploration ship Horizon. We come in peace, seeking friendship and scientific exchange with galactic civilization. Though the response from the alien fleet was immediate chaos, thousands of voices began transmitting at once, creating a cacophony of fear, anger, and confusion that overwhelmed the translation computers, one at a time. Jake said firmly, "Please, we just want to talk." Gradually, the alien communications sorted themselves out, or Marshal Gristar's voice came through again, but now it carried a note of uncertainty instead of pure aggression. You claim to seek peace, but your reputation precedes you. The galaxy knows what Deathworlders are capable of. I'm sorry, Jake replied, genuinely confused. What exactly do you think we're capable of? The question caught Gristar off guard. He had expected threats, demands, or at least some acknowledgement of human power, yet not expected what sounded like honest bewilderment. You survived sultry, he said, as if that explained everything. Well, yes, Jake agreed. It's our home. We love it. There, the simple statement rippled through the alien fleet like a shock wave. Species that had spent generations fearing the death world could not comprehend beings that actually loved living there. Dr. Helen Ross stepped forward on the bridge as the ship's xenobiologist. She had been preparing for this moment her entire career. May I speak with them, Captain? Jake nodded and handed her the communication controls. Hello, Helen said in her warmest voice. My name is Dr. Helen Ross. I study life on different worlds. I'm very excited to meet all of you and learn about your civilizations. Her words were translated and broadcast across the alien fleet to most of the listeners. The concept of a Deathworlder who studied life instead of destroying, it was almost incomprehensible. You are a scientist? Asked a new voice. This one belonged to research Director Quilara from the peaceful Butterfly people. Yes, Helen replied enthusiastically. You all are. Really, our whole mission is about learning new things and making new friends. She began describing the human crew, explaining their various specialties and interests. She talked about their excitement at discovering alien life. She mentioned their hopes for cultural exchange and scientific cooperation. With each word, the alien fleet certainty began to crack. These did not sound like the voices of savage predators preparing for conquest. Engineer Sam Carter joined the conversation when Helen mentioned the crew's technical interests. We'd love to see how your ships work, he said. Happily, human engineering is pretty good, but we're always looking for new ideas. The casual way he discussed sharing technology sent another wave of Confusion through the alien listeners. Conquerors did not offer to share their secrets with potential victims. Chef Rick Parker chimed in when the conversation turned to cultural exchange. We've prepared some food from our world to share with you. Nothing fancy, just some basic human cooking. We thought you might like to try it. The offer of food from Deathworlders caused several alien captains to faint, but others began to wonder if they had misunderstood something fundamental about these creatures. War Marshal Gristar found himself in the strangest position of his military career. He had assembled the largest battle fleet in galactic history to fight an enemy that wanted to cook dinner for him. If you truly come in peace, he said carefully, then why do you carry weapons, General? Turner answered this question, defensive systems only, Marshal. Space can be dangerous. Pirates, asteroids, equipment failures. We carry just enough firepower to protect ourselves and our mission. And what is your mission? Captain Miller took control of the conversation again. Exploration, discovery. We want to see what's out there beyond our solar system, want to meet other intelligent species and learn from them. Want to share what we know and discover what we don't. The honesty in his voice was impossible to fake. Across the alien fleet, military commanders began to question whether they were facing an invasion force or a group of curious explorers who had stumbled into the wrong neighborhood. Diplomat Felmuth, who had been listening to the conversation from his position near Kepler Station, decided to intervene. Marshal Grier, I have spent time with these humans. They are not what our histories claim. They are people much like us. Possible, replied several alien voices at once. Impossible, Falmouth insisted. And GT, oh, different, yes. And GT, they come from a world that would kill most of us in minutes. But they are not monsters. They create art. They care for their families. They build cities and schools and hospitals. They are in their own way civilized. The young historian Keithra, monitoring the conversation from her archive world, felt vindicated. She had suspected that the old stories were incomplete, that fear had distorted the truth over thousands of years. Perhaps she transmitted to the fleet, we should listen before we attack. These humans may hold answers to questions we have been afraid to ask. Dr. Kate Williams, sensing the emotional tension in the alien voices, offered her professional perspective. I'm a psychologist, she said gently. I study how people think and feel. I can hear the fear in your voices and I understand it. The unknown is always frightening, but we're not here to hurt anyone. We're here because we believe the galaxy is big enough for all of us to share. Her words carried a calm authority that penetrated the panic and confusion across the alien fleet. Military officers began to stand down from combat readiness. War Marshal Gristar made the hardest decision of his career. Human ship you will dock with my flagship. We will meet face to face. If you are truly peaceful, you will prove it. If you are not, we understand. Jake replied, and Marshal, thank you for giving us a chance. As the horizon approached the massive alien flagship, both sides prepared for a meeting that would determine the future of galactic civilization. The humans brought gifts of art, music, and food. The aliens brought centuries of fear and the hope that they had been wrong about everything. In the docking bay of the alien flagship, representatives from dozens of species gathered to witness History, when the airlock opened and the humans stepped out, many aliens gasped. In surprise, the Deathworlders looked so ordinary. They walked upright like many species. They had 2 eyes, 2 arms, 2 legs. They moved with purpose, but not aggression. Most surprising of all, they smiled. Captain Miller stepped forward and did something that no alien had ever seen a predator do. He bowed respectfully to the assembled diplomats. "Thank you for welcoming us," he said. "We know this must be frightening for you, but we're here as friends, not enemies. We hope this is the beginning of a long friendship between our people." The galaxy held its breath as the first formal meeting between humans and aliens began. The shadow of fear was finally lifting, placed by the light of understanding. The Deathworlders had emerged from the shadows, not as the monsters of ancient nightmares, but as the neighbors the galaxy never knew it needed.